Hi, my name is Dave Blanchard. I'm the CEO of the Augmentino Group, and it's my pleasure to be here with Dr. Cliff Fisher. You okay if I say doctor? Is that all right?
Yep.
Very successful chiropractor, multiple offices, incredible experience, multiple mentors over the year, and you engaged with Paul as personal coach.
Yep.
Share with us a little bit about what you were thinking when you made the engagement and a little bit about what's happened as a result of the engagement.
So I called in for you guys had a speaking program and I wanted to be a better speaker. I felt like that was where my gift was. And so Paul did an initial interview. I did the assessment, and then Paul in the first 5 minutes knew more about me, I felt, than most other human beings. And he said, okay, I'll put you in touch with this other person to do the speaking thing. I think it'd be great. And then within less than a week, he reached out and said, he goes, I had an opening. I had some other people who wanted to do it. He goes, but I just felt like this was a really perfect time for me to have coaching. And for me, it was like this really transitional space. Like I was in a stable space, but like hadn't kind of gone through all the things I needed to go through to be where I needed to be. I just relocated from Nevada to North Carolina. So I moved away from my practices, which was a lot of my being. And Paul was there both from a professional standpoint on like just starting out. The first one was the intrinsic validation, or one of the first ones was the intrinsic validation. And it totally shifted the relationship I had with my wife. And like this one lady at work that we kind of sometimes struggle. All of a sudden, when I showed up as an empty vessel and just listened to her and asked more questions and got to that space, she felt heard, and then she started to share different spaces. And then I've just seen that with my interactions with other doctors that I work with in the clinic. They're like, oh, this is what's going on. And sometimes I make assumptions about people, but as I'm getting more and more in tune with just being an empty vessel, they're sharing different spaces, and a lot of my assumptions are wrong.
What a gift. Now you mentioned Paul did your assessment and he seemed to know more about you than any other human being. Could you say a little bit more about that?
So I just gone through a divorce a couple of years ago, and he says, oh, you must be like in there. There's like this battle with internally with another woman. And it was interesting. It was not so much my ex-wife as it was my current wife. Like we were just going through like moving in together and like getting through our habits. And so that was just like, I was just kind of blown away that he'd brought that space up. And there were some things that for me were out of integrity. And then talking with Paul about it, and this was probably our third or fourth call, he said, yep, that was out of integrity, but there's nothing we can do about that. You can't go back. And so it brought it to a space of me accepting that's who I was in that moment. And that was the decisions that I made, but not, who I want to be or who I can be. And then he said my perfectionist self was beating up my real being, and it just wasn't a fair fight.
So you get to take past experiences. And what I love about what we do, even between Paul and I, what happens in your coaching session is totally confidential.
Yeah.
I had to call to find out what your profession was before we had this interview.
Oh, nice.
That's how confidential things are in the office. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so he steps into your world, and I can hear him with intrinsic validation saying, those past mistakes, let's take them out of the bag we're dragging around. Let's put them in our heart, and let's use them to serve people moving forward. Let's have them serve a purpose instead of being a burden. I love that concept.
And he sent me that video that you did, and like I watched that. Like, it took me 4 times to watch it all the way through because I just had to stop. Because there's just things I'd done that I was just so disappointed and not at all what I ever intended. And but once I took him in, it was like, and when I finally finished it after the 4th or 5th try, I accepted those spaces, and like it's allowing me to be a better version, and I don't know about better, but just a wholer version of me, and more, and be able to have that full expression of myself.
You put it in and you do feel more whole.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are watching this who aren't familiar with this concept called the Chicago Dream, if you take those experiences and put them in your heart, I remember what I was told in the dream. David, your character was forged in the furnace of adversity. Cliff, your character was forged in the furnace of adversity. You know what pain feels like. Can you take it back? No.
Yeah.
We can choose to use it as a rich resource to better understand what somebody else is going through. And there'll finally be purpose in the suffering, joy in the journey. And the key was much needed healing in your soul.
Yeah.
You have to repurpose all of those experiences. It's like, in what ways have you been uniquely prepared to serve people moving forward by owning those experiences as empathetic reference points? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, rather than denying, because I think I just kind of denied a lot of the spaces, or like, oh, that's what had to happen, rather than really putting them in like, wow, I have a unique skill set or talent to be able to help different people through different things. And it's put a totally different space. Like one of my doctors called me and he forgot to take a board, and there's all this space and everything got delayed. And I'm like, okay, like there's accountability for that, but like, what do we do now? We can't go back. And it was like, this young man just came to me and like, he's like, I can't imagine how disappointed you are. Da, da, da. I'm like, God always has a purpose. I go, I don't see it. And within 3 days, like this misstep on his part is such a gift for our company. And just to be able to refocus him on that, like, because I've always wanted this new patient concierge, but it would require a doctor, but a doctor who didn't adjust. Well, he's a doctor and he can't adjust because he can't get his license till December. So I have a 6-month trial period to see if that's a true fit. And he's working with our marketing person. And so like, it's like this whole thing was like, and I'm like, and we figured that out within 48 hours. And like, he's like on purpose and he feels so great in his space, and it's awesome.
For those who are watching this, everybody catch the significance of that, because quite often we did, oh man, how would you be so foolish? And we go into that whole challenge and we destroy the person's esteem. We don't solve the problem, but you took that problem of your own, put it into your own heart, and we're more compassionate, empathetic, understanding. And in doing so, you found a solution that turned out to be a great one for the company. Wow.
Yeah, and him. Like, he's so excited.
Oh, especially and him. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was just nice to be able to step back and not take that on. And that's what I think Paul's and the coaching program has really given me, that ability to just step back a bit. And, you know, like, he feels bad enough about it. Like, he's already done the beatings.
Yeah. You know, we talk intrinsic validation in corporate America, and it's like, we don't do the soft and fuzzy stuff. We say, this isn't soft and fuzzy. These are soft skills that have become hard facts. Because if you're not practicing that, stepping into someone's world, really listening, being in creation, finding solution, business becomes much more difficult than it needs to be, and it certainly impacts the bottom line.
Yeah, and way less fun, and not the team. Like, we want a great team and family, so that's how we approach it.
In addition to that, in what ways has your coaching impacted your business?
So the coaching has impacted my business. It's allowing me to actually have more acceptance of myself, because I moved away from a business that I started 18 years ago, and chiropractic practices, like, people are like, how do you practice away? And I'm like, well, I don't really, I manage. And so I was having some intrinsic problems just with myself of dealing with that. And so the space helped me find my value and then bring that value, and my value wasn't presence. And I feel like similar with Shane, like, I'm like, God had this plan. There was no way I was going to get away from that table unless there was something that was big enough. And it took the love of my life being 2,500 miles away for me to leave that. Otherwise, I would still be by the table, serving and loving people, but not being this expression that I need to be to create what I would like to create. So it's helped me get closer to my dream. And not just like, because my tendency is just put my head down and work, but now it's just like this, it's way lighter and way more effective, and more work's getting done, and the practices are both growing.
Incredible. And we talked about this briefly before we started the recording, that not only has this impacted your personal life, your relationships, and your business, it's been such a profound experience. You've made the decision to actually be trained as an Augmandino coach. Tell me more about this.
Yeah. So it was funny because a couple of months I said, I'd really like to learn. I asked Paul, I said, I'd really like to learn what you do and how you do it, because we have a small company, like 23 people, but I'm like, I would love to have a profound impact and influence in their life. And so I brought that up, and a month later he calls me up. He goes, okay, we have this opportunity. And I was like, holy cow. And then I'm 2 weeks into it, and already I'm already looking at the world totally different in my team and how to support and myself. And I'm amazed by when I throw it out there to the people I know, they're like, oh yeah, I'd love to understand my habits and my thought habits and why I do those, because habit finder. And they're super excited and engaged. And some of them are mentors, some of the people I work with, some are family, and some are people I'm just meeting and neighbors. And so I just feel like the greatest salesman book. I asked my son to read it, who's 17. And he's like, Dad, it's just about money. I'm like, oh my gosh, son, you totally tell me more about that. And I'm like, it's about this whole life experience. It's about our own space and what we're giving and the exchange. And so I'm really excited to work with him more in that space. And so, but it's awesome to have that impact on our family. I see, ever since that, I approach my girls and my son differently with questions. I'm like, man, everybody needs to, if everybody was just could do intrinsic validation, that would change the planet.
What's a great thing to do with a teenager?
Yeah.
We don't need to agree with them, but if they could feel understood, they wouldn't have to fight us. They could make better decisions, etc. Yeah. In the assessment, something was coming to my mind. Let's see if I can articulate this.
Okay.
We hear all the time, how do you know so much from such a simple process?
Yeah.
We say, well, it's simple to the person taking the habit finder, but it's very complex mathematical structure behind it. Well, you've done a little bit of Wizard of the Oz now. It's not the emblazoned face. You've actually pulled back the curtain, got to look inside the mathematics.
Yeah.
What's it been like over the last couple of weeks to take a look at what drives this information?
So far, it's kind of like what you said. I feel like I'm in the middle of an ocean, and I'm like, holy cow, there's so much information, and it's so overwhelming. But then, there'll be these glimpses where it'll be like, oh, that makes sense, or that makes sense. And so, but it's interesting how much in my perceptions on some of the people, I thought I had some things pegged, and when they took the assessment, totally different than I thought. And I'm like, huh. And it's helping me become more and more of an empty vessel, because sometimes our assumptions are never really proved wrong, but this assessment. And then when I have the conversations with the people, they're like, oh, my assumption was incorrect. And so it's helping me get more and more to my core, stripping down my layers of assumptions, and just looking at somebody is like, oh, tell me about that. I just want to understand.
That is so powerful. Because Cliff, often I'm asked, do you know my thought patterns by watching me? And I say, I know your behavior by watching you, but I don't know what's driving it.
Yeah.
The assessment will tell me what's driving it. Now, if that's a healthy thing, let's maximize it. If it's not a healthy thing, then let's change it.
Yeah.
But the assessment, the habit finder, allows us to go underneath the surface and measure the thought processes, the habits of thinking that are driving the behavior. Now, I'm just like you. I've stopped making assumptions, other than when I see somebody who's being very egotistical and boisterous. I just want to wrap my arms around them and say, it's okay. It's okay. Because we know somewhere there's probably some overcompensation because of a self-esteem challenge. That's about the only time I go. And it's not to be judgmental, it's to be empathetic and want to just coddle them for a moment and let them know they're okay. So you've gone through the assessment training. You're now just starting the training on how to present the curriculum material, the intrinsic validation, using your mind constructively, being present in the now, embracing structure, all these foundational principles that support basically every other training a person goes through.
Right.
Stock trading, or how to be a real estate investor, an insurance agent, or a network marketer, chiropractor. Here are the foundational principles. You've had this experience as a chiropractor. That was one of my first professions, was helping chiropractors set up their practices.
Oh, cool.
Get financing and train their staffs, etc.
Okay.
And we were good at getting financing, which meant we were very popular.
I bet.
And we discovered, and you could comment to this in the chiropractic profession, because I'm hoping, without a discussion with Paul, that you'll see some value in the fact that they go through school, they're all excited about what they're going to create, but when they step out, they're all dealing with their habits of thinking, and some of them are healthier than others, and the more healthy ones take off, and the ones who aren't can languish for a while trying to get a practice going. And to be able to help them identify those habits of thinking and be able to start working on them so they can start showing up more whole and more complete and more comfortable with themselves so that they can build a practice. Any thoughts about that?
So one of my biggest concerns is in chiropractic, we have about a 50% failure rate after 5 years. So somebody's doing something else. Yeah. In school right now, like some of the new docs I'm getting in, they're in debt $200,000, and they have zero to no business training. They don't know how to run or operate a practice. They know how to be a great caregiver and a good adjuster, but to run a business, take care of a team, to do all those things, they don't have that in their
track
space.
Patience.
Yeah. Like what that even means. Like, I think when I graduated, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll show up at the office. The bus will drop the patients off at 3:00. I'll be good to go. And so one of my things that God's put in my space was to unite chiropractic. And so nobody in our profession, BJ Palmer probably came the closest in that space. But I just don't know that we have acceptance of what people are doing different things than we are. There's over 300 different major techniques in chiropractic. Mm-hmm. And so there's this space of like, oh, mine's better. No, they're different. Like they're different. And we're so caught up in, this or that. And we just totally miss supporting each other. And I feel like chiropractors, we're like redheaded stepchild, where we're kind of we're out of the mainstream. We're kind of coming into the mainstream, but insurance, like, it's such a weird dynamic. Mm-hmm. And so we have a lot of self-esteem issues as a profession. And, but I think the other cool thing about chiropractors is they're such entrepreneurs, so they're willing to try all these new things. So I think there's been other spaces where chiropractors have been kind of taken advantage of, and we don't really treat our associates really well. We actually have a whole new naming process. We don't call our doctors associates, just because it leaves such a bad taste in new doctors' mouth, because it's like they're just worked really hard, not paid very well, and just not taken care of.
But what's the new name?
So we just ours is a new doctor, a doctor, and a senior doctor, and a partner. And so it's simple. It's simpler language, but for us, that's important to just be really honor them in that space. Because like in our office, we're like around 18 years. I have had a partner for 14 years, and like, it's such a blessing. I talk to other doctors. They're like, "Oh, how lucky you are." And, there's certainly a bit of luck, but God's favor. And then my partner Rick is just one of the best men I know. And so we're always like, and we're really clear on our roles. Like, mine's take care of the business and patients, and his is to take care of the team. And so when we go to battle, we're both going to battle for good things, and we always come out of it hugs, and we're just really grateful for each other's space and perspective.
I sense that you are as interested in lifting him and building him and validating him.
Yeah, he's awesome. Like, yep. And I don't know that he
helps him become even more awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Well, I have one last question for you, I think. We'll see.
Okay.
There'll be people watching this testimonial interview who are kind of is coaching really for me? I mean, I feel kind of okay, but I'm not sure. Is it worth the investment? Because a lot of people have never invested in themselves other than buying inexpensive clothes somewhere. You know, it's like, can I really invest in me? What would you say to those people?
So my wife was one of those people.
Ooh.
And so she would like no issues with food and nutrition, taking care of our family. There was never an issue. And then there was these places where she'd do a little bit, like she'd buy some books and do these things. And then this program came available for her, this lady she's been following. And she's like, but it was $2,000. And I'm like, and she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, honey, I go, and I'm the opposite. Like I'm probably like when I look at what I invest in my company and myself, I'm probably in the I know I'm over six figures in what we invest on an annual basis, both for our team, for ourselves. And I'm like, honey, I go, if it was $2,000, I'm like, if that $2,000 could make you just a little bit better of a mom, not that you need to be, but what if that just made you a little bit better? Would that be worth it? And she goes, yeah, it'd be good for me. But I go, no. This is going to influence our entire family and our whole community and everybody that we interact with. And so we're investing in her to create this better version of her. And so she decided to do the program. And I was like, so excited. And then, you could still feel that space where she's like, I don't know, it's a lot of money. And so she's finished the program, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my relationship with my wife is totally different because she went through the program. The things she learned in that program was things that like we've been reading and talking about, but this person had this way to present it to her. And so if somebody ends up in the space of watching a video with you guys, like they're already in the right place. And so that investment, like in ourselves, like there's not, like in my own space, there's nothing more valuable than invest in ourselves. And so if it seems like a big hurdle at first, I like my wife, like she's like over the moon with like feels great about the investment now. And so that investment in ourselves, especially I think like my wife's a stay-home mom, and that's a hard thing for her to say. And we just don't know a better term for it because she works 24/7, 365. So it's not a lack of work, but like we just want to honor in that. But she's like, well, I don't know if my job really, but she's the captain of our family. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important. And so like so people are questioning that. They just need to just do it. Like I got my worst within the first phone call, or by the second phone call I had with Paul, the 10,000 was already paid for. And what I recouped in my relationship with my wife, and what I changed just from the one or two calls, that money was already recouped. And so now everything else is gravy. And then I have another 50 or 60 years of work to make that even more profitable.
Wonderful. Thank you. You mentioned Paul a couple of times. And obviously Paul's my son. I'm just so proud of him.
I bet.
Cut his teeth on these principles, went away to run the Jack Welch Management Institute for 3 or 4 years and drove that 30-40% increase per year. And I still remember the day he called and he said, I need a new challenge. And after several conversations, it boiled down to, am I coming to work for you or am I coming to work with you? And I said, son, it's with me.
Yeah. And
he has just been an amazing asset. And we have 50 coaches. So when someone comes on board, we want to get them with the best coach. And Paul's not always available, and I'm not always available because of our schedules. We've got great coaches. But for those who are just coming into this arena of self-improvement, that we have the Habit Finder Live Academy on Tuesdays, where they come in a group and can participate in a group coaching session. And Paul pulls them right out of the audience and has interactions with them. It's quite amazing and relatively inexpensive, but everybody on that call gets Paul.
Yeah. And it's the principles. Like I just keep, like Paul will say something on the thing and then I'll read the manual. I'm like, oh, it's right here. Like everything Paul said. So it's definitely like Paul is such a great coach, but as I'm learning it and what Paul's sharing with me is like, this isn't something that's special to him. I think, people will find like they'll be attracted to their coach that will help them in that space, but everybody would be, but the principles with the Augmentino program are just timeless. And it's really nice to have back to the reason to sign up for the coaching, I'm like, wow, this is just a foundation to build. You talked about a chiropractic, all these things. It's a foundation to build a life.
Yeah. Foundation. They've given me a new title. I'm not the CEO anymore. I'm the fiduciary of the foundational.
Nice.
That was a new tag they gave me recently. I kind of like that. The fiduciary of the foundational, because it really is foundational. Well, Cliff, you've been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to do this. You'll serve many who are trying to make that decision, who haven't been as open to that kind of an investment in the past, so that we can do what we love to do, which is exactly what you've experienced.
Yeah, changed my life.
Anything you want to say in closing?
No, thank you very much. Like just, whether it's Paul or another coach, like being on the coaching thing, there's like 6 different coaches and it's like, each one of them's perspective has been awesome. And some of the ones like I didn't connect with, like I had some one-on-ones with, and I was like, oh wow. Like it was like, it's just having that safe place to be able to have this expression and know that person, on the other side of the screen or in front of you is there for a reason. They have a gift to give.
Well, as Cliff was mentioning, for those who are watching this, we train 5 or 6 people at a time. We only do it a couple times a year because we not only want people to be well trained, we then want to help them launch their practice so they actually have clients and gain experience and be successful. We're not in the coach training business. We're in the business of having successful coaches.
Yeah.
So welcome to that group. Well, thank you, Cliff. Have a blessed day. God bless, and let's stay in touch. And such a privilege to finally get a chance to meet you in person.
I feel the same.
And for me, Zoom is in person. So
I feel that more and more. Take care.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.